Welcome everyone to Texas Platinum, the last of the real water cooler talk shows on YouTube. I am Trevor, joined by Matt Myers tonight. Matt Madrid, unfortunately, is in the heart of final season, so he is unable to make it, but he sent us a few predictions and thoughts that we'll definitely be sure to include. But it's Big 12 title week, conference championship week for all the big conferences out there, and playoffs will soon be decided on. So we have a lot to discuss, recapping, a little bit about the past couple games that Texas has played since our last video. And then, of course, getting into the Big 12 title game, predicting that, and CFP talk. So before we get into it, though, please like, comment, subscribe, all the usual. Helps us a lot, especially in this time of the year as college football continues to get more and more exciting for us as things are winding down. We'd love a subscription. So please do so. So Matt Myers, let's start with you. Past couple games, Texas has looked pretty good. I mean, Texas Tech in particular. Texas blew the doors off. Iowa State, we won, I would say, convincingly and impressively, but not a blowout. Kind of give me your thoughts on the past few games. Where has Texas been for you? Has it impressed you to see the results?
Yeah, man, it feels like we're finally starting to hit our stride and peak a little bit based on the last two games. Really, the Texas Tech game, probably the most complete game, just dominant game I've seen out of a Texas team against a respectable Power Five team in a long time. It reminds me very much of the Colt days, the VY days. I think Roy Miller tweeted that. It reminds him of the Mac days, and he was, a big cog in that era. So it was awesome, man. I wish I was there. It seemed like a celebration of this team, a celebration of Sark and the program that he's built and these seniors. I mean, Jordan Whittington, Devondre Sweat, David Benda, a lot of guys, Jalen Ford, that have just been here at the bottom, when it was just ugly time. And they've fought through it. And now we're like sitting here. If we could sneak into the playoff, we could probably win a national championship. So it's kind of crazy how good we have been turned around by Sark. And we saw that against Texas Tech. I was really just talking about the game more in depth. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind was just how well the defense played. I mean, that was probably the most dominant secondary performance I've seen out of Texas, including like the DBU days with all those first rounders we used to have with Michael Griffin, Kenny Vaccaro, all those guys back in the MAC era. I've never seen us just like lock down a pass defense, like a pass offense quite like that. Our DBs were being very sticky and jamming, and ball skills were picking off plays. It was impressive, man. We've been missing that all year. I mean, that's been our weak link because I've been our secondary. So that was awesome. Our D-line, of course, did really well, like per usual. Linebackers, man, Anthony Hill, Jalen Ford played tremendous. Yeah, it was just a complete game by the defense. And it just – even our offense really kind of struggled in the red zone per usual. I blame it on Quinn. But there's many reasons why. But the defense just kept picking us up. We had so many points off of just non-offensive points. I mean, we had the pick six off the shoe from Jet Bush, which was awesome.
Crazy.
And then the Keelan Robinson return touchdown. So that's 14 points right there. And then all the short fields we got based on turnovers forced and fourth down stops. So it was just awesome, man. Like, that's the defense you need to win a Big 12 title and win a national championship, win an SEC championship here in the future. So Sark and Coach K, got to give him credit. Back to offense real quick. Jaden Blue, man, this guy is a stud. I don't know how we always just get these guys that become so good. Tashard Choice has done a great job developing that room. And Jaden Blue, man, he needs to start getting like serious carries, like serious. He's proven he's more than just a gimmicky, explosive home run back. He can run between the tackles. He can drive his legs and move piles to get those tough yards. And, of course, if you give him any space, he's going to break it. Like, as soon as he got through that initial gap, like, pretty much everybody wearing orange that knows who Jaden Blue is knew he was going to go score. And I think we'll see more of that in the future. So he might need to get the start this Saturday against Oklahoma State or Baxter. I mean, the whole room is really good. Savion Red played well. And Yeah, just another thing I have here written down that I want to talk about is the development of these players. Senior night, seeing, I kind of mentioned this earlier, seeing like Jordan Whittington, uh, but really like Tavondre Sweat, Byron Murphy, Jalen Ford, David Bennett, guys like that have been around the program, Jade Barron, that we always talk about this on Texas Platinum. This is like Matt Madrid's specialty, and like I agree with him. These were just like journeymen. These were just guys that we could not rely on at all. And they've just grown into absolute just alphas, leaders, veterans that are just always making plays for us, that are very reliable, just future NFL players out of nowhere. And these aren't even Sarkisian's guys. These are guys that Herman chose, Todd Orlando chose. And it's just so awesome to see them and how they've grown up. And it's just really encouraging for the future now that we get of Sark's 5-star recruits he has coming in now. So it's just going to get better and better down the line. You already see it with Derek Williams, Anthony Hill, Manny Muhammad, all our freshmen. They're all making plays. So this is just the program is so healthy, especially on defense, I feel like. But yeah, man. And offensively, Arch made his debut, and that was awesome. It looked really good, I thought. They threw some dimes. They were heaters, but I mean that's where they had to be, in a tight field like that. You don't want to throw lollipops in there. And man, he's athletic. He's athletic. Everybody was kind of shocked, all the casual fans out there, that this guy's not Peyton Manning. He's kind of more like Cooper Archie in that sense. So, yeah, man, Texas peaking at the right time. We beat Texas Tech by 50 points. Oregon beat them by 8. So hopefully we replicate this performance, keep this trend going, make a statement next week, and get lucky with the playoffs and sneak in there. So what were your thoughts, Trevor? I mean, I haven't let you speak, so give me your thoughts.
I mean, very much all the same. I think you said it very well and very clearly. I feel like the team is starting to hit a stride and peak at the right time. Um, the Iowa State win, I think, was massive for our program. Um, kind of like, I mean, it's not a good example, but I'll say it anyway. The TCU game was not great. Like we didn't play that well. We didn't look that great. It kind of escaped with a win in a way. But at the same time, like it was kind of like because of that one, pick that Quinn threw, and then Whittington tracked the defender down, created a fumble. Xavier Worthy recovered. It was like a culture play, and then thus kind of got defined as like this was a culture win or a culture game for Texas. Iowa State felt like a true culture win. I think for the program, the way that really from the beginning, Sark picking Sweat and Murphy as like captains and having them literally go down the middle of the field to start the game and stare the opposing team down, and really them the whole defense, and I think really the whole team played that game with a chip on their shoulder and a desire to prove to Iowa State and really everyone else that hey, we're not this pushover team anymore. And if you talk bad about us, we're actually going to take it personal. And that's something that we haven't seen in past Texas teams as of late. Feel like a lot of people talk crap about Texas, and then so maybe not all the time, but it seems like a lot of the times they've been right. And it's almost like an early reverse jinx where, you talk your shit and Texas comes in timid because of it and doesn't end up winning the game. And this was the opposite. It was they talked shit before, and Texas came in and did what old Texas did back when it was rolling under Mac and coaches before that. So it was fabulous to see that release. Game definitely had some thrills and chills in it. It wasn't a walk away win like Texas Tech was, but at the end of the day, big plays were made, clutch moments were had, and I think it really showed the maturity of this team. And I think that instilled confidence to create what this Texas Tech game was, you know, final game in DKR senior night. You're coming off of this big win. You're feeling yourself. I you know, players say this, people in general that have professions say this when you're relaxed and comfortable, your performance in sports and in a lot of things is generally better. You're best when you're at your most relaxed and most confident. And I feel like that was a prime example in the Texas Tech game. Texas was coming off feeling really great, and knowing that they have something to prove and build on. And they came out and played probably their best game of the year outside of the Alabama game. Just very complete, like you said. Defense was amazing. It's funny because we probably could have had like 5 interceptions. Like there were so many balls that were actually dropped. But it was nonetheless, it was impressive to see our secondary just Johnny on the spot, either making the tackle or getting their hands on the ball. Super impressive all around on the defense. Texas Tech really couldn't do much of anything. I mean, they ran a decent amount, but that's one of the best running backs in the country. So props to Texas for still keeping that guy under 100 yards. And that's literally all they could do. um, and maybe that's a bit of foreshadowing for this game ahead. As for the offense, Quinn's been kind of suspect these past couple weeks. You know, I'm hoping that the Big 12 game proves to be his coming out party and getting back on track, kind of like these past few games have been for the team as a whole. But he still looks kind of off. And I hope that that's not how the season ends, which I guess is could be okay if Texas as a whole continues to play the way that they're playing right now. They're kind of winning in spite of Quinn in a way. Not that he's like an issue, it's just he's not as good as he could be. So put a pin in that. If our offense starts stalling here, but the good thing is our offensive line has been really, really good. I feel like we've had good O-line play. Our run game hasn't really missed a beat with Brooks gone, which I never, ever would have assumed. Baxter and of course Blue have been really good for us, and hopefully that continues. And our special teams is killing it. Bert Auburn, we haven't given him a shout out, but breaking the UT record with 19 consecutive field goals made 5 last game, which was both impressive but also demoralizing, because it's like, damn, like if we just could put away this ball in the end zone, like we would have been up 60 by halftime if we could just score a touchdown. It's great to see that Sark trusts his guy Bert Auburn, and I love that he's gaining confidence right as we come into Big 12 title play and then bowl season, and hopefully a playoff. We'll see what happens, but that's when the kicks start meaning the most. And it's great to have a kicker going into that game feeling good about himself and on a hot streak, rather than being shaky and then being in the situation like he was earlier in the season where Sark just wasn't kicking. Not only, would he be shaky in that instance, but if he's not getting his reps, then that's not great either. So all around, good stuff. Loving where our team is at. Loving this Big 12 title game that we're right about to break down, at least where we stand at the moment. And nothing but good things. And Arch was that was just a crazy freaking moment, man. I was not there either, but I know Thomas was, so I'll give him a shout out. Not sure if Madrid was. But that was just like that. I think every Texas fan wishes they were at that game. Not only for that, but just, you could tell that everyone was just in such a high at that moment before Arch even went in, just because the game was going so well. And apparently the atmosphere was off the chain. But then, that's just the total cherry on top. And, we were going for it on 4th down, even though we were up by like 50. It was a bit disrespectful to Tech, but no one had any qualms about it. It was like, yeah, of course you go to for it on 4th down. We need to get Arch these reps, and he looked pretty good. Wish that he was able to throw a touchdown pass, but was a little excited, rocketed those balls a little too hard. But reps are good, and it's exciting to see him finally get his opportunity to play.
Yeah, man, it just like goes to show like it's like once he's the starter in the SEC for us, it's going to be just every game's going to be like a
Yeah,
movie. It's going to
it's
be
game
insane.
over.
Yeah,
uh, just with the level of hype that he possesses, and I mean, yeah, it's just you just kind of lose your mind. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like literally him just going in the game and handing the ball off. Like
yeah.
I know I'm not alone in saying that, but I was losing my mind, and I feel like I'm a pretty level-headed fan. It's I don't know, it's just exciting, to have a Manning. So I don't know what that means for Malik Murphy. I don't know what it means for the offseason, but
Yeah.
what I know that it means now is it's excitement,
I think it means Malik's going to cash out and get a great spot as a starter somewhere else, and
probably.
and it's going to be fun in the future with Arch at quarterback. But
Yeah,
I'm glad that Sark wasn't afraid to run up the score. He recognizes that we need style points badly, but
yeah,
apparently that's all the committee cares about is eye test and style
right.
points.
That's all they care about.
So going into this week, I think that kind of lends like is a good thing because I don't know about y'all, but I was always on team Oklahoma State, not OU for this game because first of all, I just want to get the freaking number on DKR, the fourth Big 12 title. Like it's really embarrassing how I've only had three. Just give us a fourth one so it's not so
Yeah.
ugly up there. I know they changed the orientation now; they're all together, so it doesn't look so bad. But still, I want that Big 12 title. And Oklahoma State is obviously way less of a threat to beat us in Oklahoma. The just the emotions of that rivalry. And I mean, we saw it this year. Oh, you beat us in Dallas, and Dylan Gabriel's a really good quarterback. So I'm glad we don't have to deal with that this week. But I know some people wanted revenge. We'll get our revenge next year, and we'll keep seeing OU. But I want that Big 12 title, and I want your mark to hand it to Sarkeesian. And I want that WWE belt that they're doing for the most valuable player. He's getting a wrestling belt, apparently.
Mm.
So hopefully that goes to Tavondre Sweat or
Yeah, I was
something.
gonna say it's gotta be Sweat.
Yeah, he
Put
was
that belt
destined.
on.
Yeah. And then, man, but yeah, all right. So I guess we could transition into that game now. I
Let's
mean,
do
it's
it.
let's do it. Yeah. So Saturday, 11 a.m., Texas, Oklahoma State. One last ride. We get one last stop on the farewell tour. It's kind of like a storybook ending if we get it done on Saturday. Oklahoma
Hmm.
State's the one team in the Big 12 that we haven't beaten our last time we played. They're the one with the most recent loss against is Oklahoma State. And this is our chance to avenge that. Sark is 0-2 against Mike Gundy. So this is lining up to be a storybook ending, hopefully. But yeah, Oklahoma State, I really don't know how they're here. They kind of got hot in the middle of the Big 12 play.
No one
Like,
knows how they're here.
I don't think they know how they're here either because
No.
they looked horrible against BYU. They looked horrible against UCF. They got blown up by UCF. They got blown out by South Alabama. They beat OU. Took a lot of ref help to do it,
Right.
but they beat OU. And they're a ranked team. They're a top 20 team. So it'll be good for the resume, I guess, if we go out there and beat them. But obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is Ollie Gordon, Big 12 player of the year offensively. That's a guy that Texas tried to get in recruiting at the last second. And we almost did, from what I understood. But um, either way, we got good running backs. But he's a stud. And he's but the thing that's been interesting about their offense is aside from him is the last couple of weeks, Alan Bowman, speaking of Alan Bowman, he's been around forever. We played against him back in the COVID era at Texas Tech, that amazing game where we stole that win. But Alan Bowman's been throwing a lot these last couple of weeks, like over 40 pass attempts, over like 300 yards ish, like a lot. He's putting up big numbers these last couple of weeks. And that's because you wouldn't think they'd be doing that with their strength of their team being their run game with Ollie Gordon, but they're going to throw it, and they're going to throw it a lot Saturday. I feel like Mike Gundy's going to go out there and just not use Ollie Gordon at all, at least early on, just to test our defense at our weakness, which is our secondary. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Brennan Presley's still there. He's a good receiver in the slot, very fast, very twitchy. So that's a guy that could get loose underneath, like we've seen in the past with like U of H, what they were doing with those crossing routes. But I mean, Texas just matches up so well in this game. It's kind of like we were built to beat Oklahoma State this year. I mean, their run defense is really bad. Their defense really is just bad in general. So we'll be able to hopefully just run on them all day. I know they have a couple good linebackers, but really, we'll be able to put up points without a doubt. We just got to finish drives. And then the strength of their team is their run game, and the strength of our team is like our elite run defense. So I like the way it lines up. Do you have any thoughts, Trevor, on our last game with Mike Gundy? I'll miss Mike Gundy. As crazy as he is, he's fun to play against.
Yeah. Um, on paper, this should just be an ass kicking. It's just, honestly, you look at everything that Oklahoma State possesses, all their statistics, what they are as a team, and we are like their worst nightmare matchup wise, considering how they play, what they're good at, what they struggle at, whatever they've been decent at, with their run game. Texas is they are the best run defense in the Big 12 and one of the best in the country. Um, and then in short yardage situation, we're nails. And then our secondary's been, kind of a weakness, but past couple weeks, I feel like our secondary is, taking leaps and bounds. So I'm even feeling good about that if, Oklahoma State, decided that they need to throw and take advantage. I think we're able to take advantage of um, you know, Bowman in return. So it should be a pretty clear victory. It's Mike Gundy though, and I what I love about Mike Gundy and hate because I'm a Texas fan, but what I love about him is whenever he plays Texas, he leaves it all on the line, throws it all out there, does some crazy trick plays, goes for it on fourth down. He just doesn't give a shit. He's not, well, I mean, he gives a shit, but you know what I mean? Like he's not like going to be conservative and everything like that. Like he's going to go for the win. Um, and I tip my cap to that, but it makes it hard as a, Longhorn fan that it's like, oh, we might hold them on, third down or get them into fourth down situations, but they might still go for it, or we might defend the run well when expecting a run, and they might do some crazy elaborate trick play that we just never could anticipate. So I think it's important that Texas goes into that game not feeling too confident, that they still feel that they need to prove things and perform well and keep doing what they're doing. I think if we play an average game by our standards, we'll win. But I think if Texas wants any shot at the playoff, which we'll get into playoff talk and conference championship talk here in a minute, we got to win convincingly. Um, and even if we do, that's still not a guarantee at all that we'd get in. But just nonetheless, Texas needs to win this game. They just have to. It'd be one of the biggest disappointments, I think, in program history if we don't win this game, considering what kind of a team Oklahoma State is. And again, they're not a bad team. They're not good. I'm just being honest. They're not good. I think even they'd admit that. Doesn't mean that they can't win this game, though. It doesn't mean that Mike Gundy can't beat Texas with a lesser team, because that's all he's done his whole career. So I don't know. So I'm still like a little bit nervous, just given the history and of things, but on paper, it should be an easy matchup. And if Texas just handles business, they'll come out champions. So kind
Yeah.
of my thoughts.
Yeah, that's a good thing, Trevor, that you said. I mean, we're going to get the best version of Oklahoma State Saturday. The one we saw against Oklahoma, they're going to be at least dialed in as much as they can be. And Gundy's going to have all the he knows he's not going to be able to beat us just straight up running at us, running their
Right.
offense. It's going to have to be a little gimmicky, just a lot of wrinkles everywhere. So I'm sure we'll be prepared for that. But I was telling my brother, he was asking me before the tech game, "Are you nervous?" Because he's an Aggie, and I was like, "No, man, I just like trust this team now." And that's how I feel. Like I just trust this team, and they just keep proving us right every week. They just keep winning these games, and they're just so mature and veteran and very businesslike with their approach. And it feels like we're, like I've said, peaking at the right time. So yeah, I'm like very confident going into this, and it's like almost too confident. But like in my mind, we already won the Big 12 title, and I think honestly, I hate to say, a lot of the fans probably think that too, and maybe some of the players. So hopefully we don't just get caught sleeping at the wheel. But I don't think this team is wired like that, like of teams past to just overlook games like this. I think this was always the goal they talked about, and I think that they'll show up and roll Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, I know that I said that, we could still get upset and everything like that, but there is such a talent difference in these two teams. And I don't know. I mean, it's kind of been that way all year. Like Texas has just found ways to win, which just isn't, you know, the recent history of this team. And whenever you're looking at a title game for a season, you want to base it off of not past seasons necessarily, but what are they this season? And this season, it's been finding ways to win rather than finding ways to lose. Um, Outside of the OU game, which I think just about anyone would feel that if we played them again, we would have we would win that game. Like that game is frustrating because it's like that one blemish, and if you watched it, like we just didn't play our best game, and Oklahoma did. And if we just played a little bit better, even if we didn't play that much better, I do think that we would have won it. We'd be in a very different situation, but that's not what happened. And winning the Big 12 would kind of be that little bit of redemption and still accomplishing the goal that this team put forward this year. So,
Sorry. All right, man. Let's get into predictions then. So I guess I'll go first, or I'll put Madrid first. Madrid texted us his prediction: Texas 33, Oklahoma State 21. So he's got Texas winning but not covering.
hmm,
Kind of an ugly score. I would hope that we win by more than that if
yeah.
we're trying to impress the committee. But Texas winning. I have Texas winning 58-10. Like I said, big
Ooh,
blowout. Yeah.
damn.
I feel like Sark knows and this team knows that they have to put it on, put a show on Saturday. I mean, all eyes will be on this game. It's a standalone game, 11 a.m. Everybody will be watching it. The committee will be watching it, and Texas needs help. They need to make a statement, and Texas definitely has the talent to go and make a statement. We're seeing the talent difference that we've always technically had based on recruiting rankings, but now we actually see it, like with the development. Like against Texas Tech, we were just way more talented than them, and you could see it on like pretty much every level of the field. So I think we can just flex our muscles a little bit and just roll. Oklahoma State's not built to come back, so I think an early lead, and this thing will get ugly pretty fast.
Agreed. I have kind of a split score between you guys. I got 48-27 Texas. Um, 48 seems right for me for Texas side. Oklahoma State 27. I kind of waffling on it. I gave them a little bit more points just because again the Gundy factor, and I just know that they're gonna find ways to score, even if like we stifle their run game, and there's just gonna be weird. Every time we play this team, there's weird shit that happens, and they somehow find ways to get points, and it is a championship game. It's not like a regular season game where if they're getting blown out, they're gonna put in the backups. Um, so um, still covering and winning convincingly, but not quite the blowout that you have. But blowout would not surprise me at all. I'm feeling pretty confident about this game, and think obviously Vegas is too, and just about everyone. So hopefully that is what comes true. That's what happens, and it's not um, the opposite of that. Uh, but yeah, I think all of us collectively feel pretty confident, and they just need to go out there and do it, handle business.
That's right. We win that, and then we just wait the rest of the day
Right.
Saturday. Hope and
Everything
pray.
else
Yeah.
out of control by that point.
Right.
So yeah. All right. So now we're going to shift our conversation to talk about college football at large right now. Conference championship games outside of the Big 12 championship are being had. And playoff kind of final playoff standings are right about to take place here as soon as those championship games get decided on. So, Myers, how about you kind of started off general thoughts about where Texas stands amongst all the other teams? Obviously, we've been ranked seventh in the CFP poll for as long as I can remember, it seems like. CFP doesn't seem to be giving Texas a lot of credit, despite, you know, a lot of notable, you know, things that I feel like they should be giving us more credit for. But just kind of give some opening thoughts as well as like where you see things going.
Yeah, man, it was frustrating to see us stay at 7. Ohio State still ahead of us. I know that doesn't really matter. And also, but Oregon's still way ahead of us. I just don't understand what the committee is doing. I mean, I think y'all have all seen by now probably that video of the that spokesperson of the CFP that was asked, like just point blank from Reese Davis, Texas has the better resume, has a better strength of schedule, has a better common opponent win by like 50 versus Oregon winning on a last minute field goal. And then the response was just like a non-response. Just it was incredible to see. Like a politician, like worse than a politician, but like for sports, like there's no reason to be like this. So it makes you question the committee and what they see. So that's why style points, I guess, are the most important thing to this committee. So that's why I'm hoping we blow out Oklahoma State, put up 100 points on them, and we kind of force our way in there. But yeah, we're not getting much love at all. Need a lot of chaos to happen. Um, but I do think Texas right now is one of the four best teams in the country. And I'm going to ask you in a second, Trevor, if you do too. But I think if you're looking for the four best teams, I think resume wise, we stack up, of course. But also like I guess I test not really, but Texas is basically an SEC team where if you put us on the field with Georgia or Bama or Michigan, like we're gonna show up. We're gonna make that a game down to the wire. I mean, just based on track record of Texas over the years, and especially this year. I mean, we're not going to go out there and get TCU'd or Michigan State or Cincinnati just get rolled, or like Washington, they just got rolled. Florida State got rolled back in 2014. Texas isn't that type of team. So in terms of like competitive, fun matchups, like Georgia versus Texas would be a great game. I can't say the same about Florida State. I can't say the same about Washington or I mean even Oregon. I'm not so confident in. So I think Texas could make some noise if we get in, but yeah, we need chaos and yeah. Let me pass it to you, Trevor. What are your thoughts on Texas being a one of the four best teams in the country?
I agree with it. Um, Got to be honest. I mean, the top eight teams this season, for a lot of this season, and then especially as of late, I feel like they're all pretty even. I do. I think Georgia, Georgia, Michigan, I think that they're not in a tier of their own. I think they're both beatable, honestly. I think Texas could beat both of those teams. I would not be surprised if they do. In fact, I think we actually favor matchup very well. So if Texas did make the playoff and got drawn to either of those teams, which would very much be a possibility, I could definitely see Texas um, winning a game like that. But even then, I still think that those two deserve, one and two, um, rankings. But everyone else, they just seem similar. All of them can get God or, look impressive. And obviously FSU just isn't what they once were. And, you can't, I'm kind of with the committee until they lose a game. You can't really demerit them. I think, you can't give an undefeated team, undefeated Power Five team, you can't not have them in the playoff. I know that they're in a bad spot, but they're still winning. So I don't know. That's tough. And then Oregon and Washington, I think, are both very good, very talented teams. Washington doesn't seem really any different than Texas in my eyes in terms of, you know, I mean, they're different, but in terms of like the argument as to whether or not they'd be in the top four, I mean, very talented teams. The only difference is Washington has found a way to win every game. Texas slipped up once. Texas played a harder schedule. Washington has looked worse against worse opponents than Texas, but they're undefeated and they're in the Pac 12, which Pac 12 seems to be getting a lot of respect this year. Oregon, much the same thing. Weaker strength of schedule, but they've been putting up a lot of points. It's all about eye test, it seems like this year for the committee. And I think a lot of it is like, I think so much of it has to do with just Heisman players because you have, Bo Nix, who very well might win the Heisman this year, and you have Michael Penix Jr., two great quarterbacks putting up great numbers. I really think that the committee is biased to those two teams because of that. It's probably other reasons too, but I really do think that if Quinn Ewers was having like an elite year, I think Texas would get a lot more respect. But the fact that we're not having that, coupled with our success, I think is a big deal. That night, I don't think they value the Big 12 very much this year. I think they just think, oh, it's a shitty conference and they lost a game, so that's that. Kind of in the same way that they don't really value the ACC or, some of these other conferences out there. The SEC out there obviously going to value a lot, even if the SEC is average, but SEC has been pretty good, especially towards the end of the season here. So it's tough. But to answer your question, would Texas be in my top four? Yeah, for sure. But I can see their reasoning as to why they're not in the top four, especially considering that right now we have three undefeated teams. Is Texas the best one-loss team in the country? I think so. But, I could see why Oregon is ranked ahead. And Ohio State, I don't agree with, but their loss is a little bit better than Texas's. I don't know. Point is, it's a complicated year for this. This is like finally one of those years where a 12-team playoff, I think, would make a lot of sense. I think past years, didn't really constitute it, and maybe in the future it won't. But this year in particular, with so much parity and so much, cream at the top, where, like I said, top 8 teams, I think you could kind of scramble them up for the most part, and they'd be pretty evenly matched. So I don't know. It's tough, but yes, I agree with you. I don't think we're getting enough respect.
Yeah, and it's funny. You said this before we got on here, Trevor. It's crazy how Texas, like everybody talks about, especially Aggies, like the burnt orange media conspiracy, like the Texas stimulus package, just putting anything Texas on, like any Texas headlines, anything Texas gets money, gets clicks, gets views. So we always thought, like, if we're on the bubble one year, they're going to put in for that payday, and it doesn't look like they're going to do that unless we get the chaos in front of us. But let me present this scenario to you. So obviously the most clean scenario for us to get in the playoff is chalk holds, but Louisville beats Florida State. That opens up the 4th seed for us to slide in, and we play Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. That would be the clean. No, like if that happens, we're definitely in. Texas wins, Louisville wins. But the only other way I see Texas getting in, aside from like Iowa beating Michigan, which isn't going to happen, and I actually like the scenario a lot because I think it creates a path for Texas not only be in, but to win the whole thing, is if chalk holds, Florida State wins, they're in. Washington, I'm picking Washington. Washington's in. And
Bama beats Georgia.
Bama beats Georgia. So then you have Bama, Texas fighting for the 4th seed.
Right.
Because Oregon's out now because they lost. So it's just down to Bama and Texas. It's not going to be Georgia. They lost to Bama. And are they going to put Bama over Texas for the 4th seed? No, they're not.
I don't know. I don't think so, but it depends on how they beat Georgia.
Yeah, which is why
it depends on how Texas beats Oklahoma State. I think that would definitely be a talking point. The other thing is, I don't know. I don't think Georgia's eliminated if they lose. I don't.
I think they are this year. They don't have the resume. I know they have like the, of course, the
They have
brand,
they have no, they have some quality wins over ranked teams.
but
That
they'll,
in look, like I hate this personally. I think it's bullshit, but um you can't lie that there's going to be bias as to
yeah,
past seasons for Georgia. The fact that they've been on this kind of run, I think I think that's why they're number one in the first place. I honestly I would have put after I wasn't shocked, but I was a little surprised that Michigan didn't come out number one after beating Ohio State. I don't think they deserve it. I don't think they're the number one team in the country, but number two beats number three. I couldn't imagine that not resulting in a number one ranking, and it didn't. Um,
yeah.
so yeah,
My
I
question
don't
is the
know. I feel like
like,
they would stay afloat, kind of like TCU last year. They were undefeated. They lost a conference championship game, but they still managed to stay in it. So I can't see a world where Georgia wouldn't make it, even if
yeah,
they
but like
lost.
99% of the years, yes. But this year, like, who would they bump? Who would they bump out? Would they bump out Alabama, the team that just beat them in the Big 12 and the SEC championship? No.
Bump
Would
in or
they
bump out?
bump out for that spot? Michigan, would they bump out? Who's 13-0 Big Ten champion? No. Washington, I mean, if Oregon wins, then that could happen. But like in the scenario where Washington wins, and
Yeah.
then it comes down to Texas, Alabama, and Georgia for that last spot, it's not going to be Georgia coming off a loss in Week 13 to one of the teams they just. That's not going to happen, and they're not going to bump
Mm,
undefeated Michigan or Washington or Florida State. Maybe Florida State, based on like
I don't know.
they want to just ditch the whole deserving thing just to get Georgia in there at the last second. Then yeah, I could see that. But
It gets messy. This
yeah, it
is
gets
this is
messy.
the nightmare scenario that everyone keeps talking about. If Alabama beats Georgia, then it gets pretty hairy.
But it's crazy. I'm more confident in Bama beating Georgia than I am Louisville beating Florida State.
Yeah,
I don't think Louisville's that good. So
I'd agree with that.
I'll be cheering hard for Alabama at 2:30 Saturday. And I want that chaos. I think Texas will get in. But yeah, like you said, it's not a sure thing at all. Obviously, there's going to be Georgia bias. And
I don't know. I
it's going to be
think
a sleepless night if that's the case, and we have to wait till Sunday to figure it out.
I I kind of think the opposite approach. I think I'd almost prefer Georgia to win, get in at the number one spot, so there's not even a discussion, and then just hope that FSU loses. Because yeah, Michigan's not going to lose to Iowa. There's no way in hell. I mean, that'd be freaking hilarious. Everyone would love that if Iowa upset Michigan. What a moment that would have been. But no, I don't know. I think that's our cleanest path in is just FSU lose, Georgia stay good, um, and Washington, Michigan stay there, Georgia stay there, FSU out, one of the Pac-12 teams, and then
Yeah,
Texas.
that's the
I
cleanest
think
path.
that's the cleanest, simplest. I think if Georgia loses, then you get into discussion that we just had as to what one loss team makes it in. And
Yeah,
again, I
and that's
agree. I would give it to Texas, I think.
hmm.
But the fact that the committee hasn't, I mean, they've had Texas at 7 forever and haven't really given us the benefit of the doubt much, if not all, of the season, really. And after we lost OU, um, there hasn't been any benefit of the doubt. So I don't like our odds if chaos ensues only because they haven't given us any benefit of the doubt for the back half of the season.
Yeah, but they've had us over Bama consistently, so I feel like we'll
Well,
remain over Bama. And
sure.
even with the Georgia win, because we have the head-to-head, and we'll have a very comparable resume, or if not, no, it won't be better anymore, but it'll be comparable. So, but yeah, that's the scenario that the playoff wants. But my point is, it's just simple: Texas in, and everybody else, everybody's. It's there's no choosing between one loss teams because everything unfolds cleanly. But my point is, like, I'd rather have two games. I don't want to. I mean, we don't have much options, but I don't want to put all my eggs into the Louisville basket. I think cheering for Alabama is the smart thing to do because I think that gives you two avenues to get in. If you Georgia just takes the spot immediately, like the spot's closed if they win at 2:30, and it's down to one spot. before we even get to the night games. Alabama winning at 2:30 really keeps us alive. I think Alabama winning sends us to the playoff. So I'll be cheering hard for Bama, but I could be wrong. But don't quote me on that.
What
But anyway,
what makes you so confident that that sends us to the playoff? Where would you put Alabama if they beat Georgia? Would they get the 3 seed and Texas get 4?
no, I think if Oregon wins, I think Bama would get the they would be in, and we'd play Bama in the semis. FSU's going to be the 4 seed, I think, because just to help the 1 seed out with the easy matchup. So I think it'd be Texas, Bama, Florida State, and Michigan if Bama wins. And if I don't think Georgia's in. I don't think
So
Georgia's
it'd
in.
be so it'd be Michigan at 1, Florida State 2, Texas then Bama, or Bama
Yeah,
then Texas.
yeah.
Interesting.
That's how it would go. I mean, what else
Hmm.
would they do with
Yeah,
Georgia?
I don't know. I just don't see a scenario where Georgia doesn't make it in unless they just get beat handily by Alabama. I think if it's a close game, they'd still find a way to put Georgia in.
And they would bump Florida State if they did. They wouldn't bump Texas because we'd have that Bama win, and Bama would be the SEC champ. Bama and Texas would be in.
They don't care about that game, Myers. They don't.
They
That's been
do.
like the
They do.
biggest
We're ahead of
argument.
Alabama. We're ahead of Alabama.
Right. They only care about it for that reason, but they don't care about it whenever it comes to comparing strength of schedule or resume with Oregon and all these other teams that we're talking about.
That's true. That's true. So I don't know, man. We just need Louisville to win and avoid all this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Um oh, how about this? Let's break down our championship predictions. Um and that kind of rounds out this conversation.
mhm. All right. So I have Michigan beating Iowa, of course. I wish Iowa would win, but that's not going to happen. I have Washington over Oregon. I feel like Oregon is getting so much love, and I think Washington's being disrespected with this line. I mean, Washington beat them this year.
Yeah.
They're undefeated. They got good receivers, good quarterback, great coach. I think Washington wins again and goes to the playoff 13-0, pulls the upset. I have Texas beating Oklahoma State big, of course. I have Alabama beating Georgia. Um, Not confident in that, but I want to believe in Nick Saban. He's won like 16 games in a row in Atlanta, so hopefully he keeps that streak alive.
Yeah.
And I mean, Georgia looked suspect last week. So did Bama, of course. But I feel like these games exist in vacuums. Bama versus Georgia.
Oh, totally.
There's been years where Georgia's been so dominant, and Bama went in there and beat them by 20, and
Yeah.
not vice versa, but Georgia's beaten Bama when they had no business beating Bama recently, like for the Natty. So, and then I have Florida State winning. So I have chalk holding, except for Bama beating Georgia, and then I think Texas in that scenario gets in with the 4 seed. And the best thing about that scenario is Bama's probably boxed out too because Washington wins. So we go into a playoff hypothetically with Florida State, Washington, and Michigan. Like that's a national championship waiting to happen for Texas. So
Yeah.
that's like my dream scenario. That's another reason why I want Bama to win because it opens up a door where we're in there. We don't have to even play Georgia. We just show up and we get like Florida State or Washington. No, even Michigan. We could beat Michigan. Like we get easy path to the title is my point. So
So you I guess we already had this discussion. I it's just very hard for me to see Alabama beating Georgia and neither of those and the SEC gets left out.
yeah,
Or
that's why
just the SEC gets left out, period. I can't imagine a world where that happens.
so if Oregon wins like they're supposed to, I think in that scenario, Bama will jump Oregon and it'll be Oregon on the outside with Texas and Bama in because they're not going to send Bama in and leave Texas out. I really, really doubt that. I really doubt that.
I don't know. It's tough. I mean it's not tough for us, but like again, it's tough when I'm thinking about the way that the committee's been working and
Yeah, but
it's chaos.
yeah. So
All
what are your
right.
picks? Yeah, the weekend.
So I will say based on our notes, Madrid agrees with Myers that
Yeah,
exact same things
same winner.
happen.
Yeah, same
Uh
winners.
which again would be great for Texas. Um, I have all the favorites winning because that's kind of what this season's been, honestly. Like, all there really haven't been a ton of upsets. I mean, there's been close calls, but um, all the dominant teams at the top have, held serve and been able to get by. So I have Georgia beating Alabama. I agree, though. If there's any team that's going to get upset, I think the Georgia Alabama game, I really do see a world where Alabama wins, but I'm saying Georgia for now because, again, my philosophy is anti-chaos and just hope that Florida State loses. Uh, so you have Georgia, FSU winning their conference title, unfortunately, just because they keep finding way. They're like a cockroach that doesn't die. It seems like, they're so close to dying, but keep finding ways to win against, I think, bad teams. Texas winning, obviously. Michigan winning, obviously. And then I do have Oregon beating Washington just because, again, Washington's just been real shaky. It definitely favor us if Washington wins, but I don't know. They keep living pretty close to the sun, so feeling Oregon personally. So we would definitely be out of the playoff in my situation, which obviously I don't want, but that's kind of how I see things going. And hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah, man. It's unfortunate that the one year that we actually become like a legit great team is the one year where there's just like five undefeated Power Fives going into
Yeah.
week. And
When's
it's
the
just
last time that's happened?
never. Like, I mean, not in the playoff era.
Yeah. But even
Never.
even in like the BCS era, I never recall so many teams being undefeated or 11-1.
I know you could legitimately have two undefeated power. Like, if this is the BCS era, you could have 13-0 Washington, 13-0 Florida State sitting at home on national championship night. If
Yeah.
this was like a BCS, like that's crazy. Where they claim national championships, like now I understand why all these teams just claim natties back in the day because there was no structure, and that's why the 12-team playoff people, especially this year, are like, okay, maybe it was not so bad.
Yeah, for sure.
But either way, though, we gotta. I hate to say it, but no matter what happens, this year's been a success. Even if we lose Saturday, this
Uh, you
this
think
season
so? You think it's a success if we lose to Oklahoma State? I don't know.
it hurts a lot. You're probably right. It's probably not a success,
It's
but
not a success, man. I'm sorry. Like I said earlier, that'd be one of the biggest most disappointing losses I feel like, and maybe not in our history, but in recent history.
11 to 12 wins though. I mean, 12 wins because we win the bowl game. Like
Sure.
that,
I
you beat
mean,
Bama. Like maybe not a success, but like the trend of the program's in a very
oh
healthy.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Better way to
Regardless of what
put it.
happens, we're in
Yeah,
a good spot, but I wouldn't call this success unless we win the title.
that's fair. That's fair. I agree with that actually.
Yeah.
But we're gonna win, so who cares? This is a
Right.
stupid conversation.
Yeah. Knock on wood. So,
Cool, man.
any other thoughts?
No, man, it's
Think we're
nice. It's
good.
nice having us in the conversation in early December, late November, because this has never happened as long as we've had this channel. Hasn't happened
Hmm.
since like what 12, 2009. It's been a while, so
Yeah,
it's awesome. I'm happy to be a Longhorn right now. It's a lot of fun.
for sure. And we'll both be at the Big 12 game. So
Mhm.
if you guys are watching and see us, say hi. We're not going together, but we'll be there independently. But rooting on the horns. So
So
come and say hello. Or
definitely,
just comment below about your predictions and thoughts. And would love to hear your thoughts, especially on the um, CFP rankings. Pretty
yeah,
interesting conversation there. So
yeah.
awesome. Thank you guys for watching, subscribing if you did. We appreciate it. And we will catch you in the next video, hopefully after a conference title win. It's been so many years since we've been able to say that. And hopefully Saturday that is no longer the case. So Horns up. We'll see you in the next video.
Welcome.